kindly ask everyone to direct your attention to the screen in front of you.
Welcome to the Habibie building. According to the institution's regulations and rules, we would like to present this safety induction video as a guide to ensure your comfort, security, and safety while being at the Habibie building. Currently, we are in the Sectoral Auditorium. This auditorium is smoke-free. There are restrooms located outside the auditorium. The auditorium is equipped with emergency facilities, including emergency exits and fire extinguishers. If you hear a continuous alarm sound, it indicates a real emergency situation. Please proceed immediately to the designated assembly point or safe gathering area upon hearing the alarm. We kindly ask you not to panic, remain calm, and wait at the assembly point for further instruction. If there is smoke, cover your nose with a wet cloth to breathe. Avoid using the elevator and use the stairs during emergencies to evacuate. If you are able, use the provided fire extinguisher in the auditorium. In the event of an earthquake, protect yourself under a table, chair, or any nearby objects and wait until the situation returns to normal. Lastly, we remind you to always maintain cleanliness while inside the Habibie building. And to immediately inform the staff if you encounter any unsafe or potentially hazardous conditions. Thus concludes the safety induction for the Sectoral Auditorium, Habibie building. For your safety, please adhere to the regulations and have a productive day.
Terima kasih, Bapak dan Ibu, acara akan dimulai. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, peace and blessings to us all. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, greetings over you. The Honorable Deputy for Development Policy, National Research and Innovation Agency BRIN, Professor Dr. Insinyur Anugrah Widianto BSc MA. Good morning, sir. Lead of Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation for Sustainability Research Group BRIN, Dr. Insinyur Widiatmisi Winanti MSc. Building Engagement Specialist, Science-Based Target Initiative SBTi, Ms. Amanda Skeldon. Also the honorable panelists and moderators, UN Global Compact Network Indonesia, IGCN, Board of Founders, Supervisors, Advisors, and Management, the participants of the UN Global Compact in Indonesia, business leaders, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Roundtable discussion, Achieving Corporate Climate Ambition in Indonesia, Understanding SBTi Fundamentals and Sectoral Pathways. My name is Raina Dewari from IGCN, and it is my pleasure to be the host for today's session. Ladies and gentlemen, today's event is organized by IGCN in collaboration with BRIN and SBTi to provide clarity on net zero standards, foster meaningful peer-to-peer exchanges, and together all of your valuable perspective on how Indonesian businesses can move forward towards achieving credible and science-based
recording stopped.
Ladies and gentlemen, we kindly ask you to follow our program until the end. Before we begin, we kindly ask you to please rise to the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya. Hadirin dimohon berdiri. Hadirin dimohon untuk duduk kembali. Please be seated. To begin our program, we will hear the opening remarks from the National Research and Innovation Agency BRIN. Please join me in welcoming the Chairman of BRIN, Dr. Laksana Trihandoko, who will be represented by Deputy for Development Policy, Professor Dr. Insinyur Anugrah Widianto, BSc MN. Please give him a round of applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, partners, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome all of you to this roundtable discussion jointly organized by the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, and UN Compact Network Indonesia, and the Science-Based Target Initiative, SBTi. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the partners and participants for this commitment and collaboration in advance Indonesia corporate climate ambition. As we gather today, we are reminded that the urgency of the climate crisis requires both in scientific integrity and collective action. Indonesia has set a clear and measurable goals under the Enhanced Nationally Determined Contribution, or NDC, to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 31.89% unconditionally and 43.20% with the international support by 2030. This ambition is reinforced through our long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience 2050, which outline Indonesia pathway toward the net zero emission by 2060 or sooner. and the Indonesia follow net sink 2030 target aiming to achieve a net sink of the 140 million tons of CO2 equivalent from forestry and land use sector by the end of this decade. These national targets reflect Indonesia's strong commitment to the Paris Agreement while ensuring that our development remains inclusive and sustainable. In this regard, BRIN plays a pivotal role in supporting evidence-based policy, advancing low-carbon technologies, integrating climate science into national and sectoral decision-making through our research cluster on renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, biodiversity, and environment governance. BRIN facilitate innovation, strengthen monitoring, report, and verification, MRV, system, and promote collaboration between government, industry, and research institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, today's discussion on the Science-Based Target Initiative is highly relevant to our national agenda. SBTi provides a robust scientific network for companies to set emission reduction target aligned with the global 1.5 degree C pathway. For Indonesia, voluntary framework like SBTi are complementary to national instruments such as the National Carbon Economic Value System, established under Presidential Regulation number 98 in 2021. Align corporate targets with this framework ensure the private sector climate action directly contribute to Indonesia NDC long-term net zero strategy. BRIN fully support the adoption of the credible science-based standard for emission reduction, not only to enhance transparency and accountability, but also to open new opportunities for green investment, innovation, and technology transfer. Collaboration among research, policy, and industry is essential to mobilize financing, strengthen capability, and accelerate the diffusion of clean technology across all the sector. And finally, I would like to emphasize that the achieving of net zero emission is not the responsibility of the government alone, but it is their mission that requires the participation of business, scientists, and international community. And I hope this roundtable will foster the meaningful dialogues and concrete partnerships that help Indonesia and the world move closer to a resilient, low carbon, and sustainable future. And I wish all participants a productive and insightful discussion. May this roundtable strengthen our shared commitment to science-based climate action and to accelerate Indonesia transition toward a sustainable and low carbon future. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan.
Thank you very much for the inspiring remarks. Bapak Anugrah, kami mohon perkenannya untuk dapat tetap berada di atas panggung. As we will kindly invite Bapak Junardi, the President of IGCN, to come onto the stage to present the token of appreciation from IGCN to Professor Anugrah. Mari kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah kepada Bapak Anugrah dan Bapak Junardi. Baik. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Anugrah dan juga Bapak Junardi. Dipersilahkan untuk kembali ke tempat duduknya masing-masing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now hear the next opening remarks from IGCN. The remarks will be delivered by IGCN Secretary General and Acting Executive Director, Bapak Andi Rahim. Kepada Bapak Andi, dipersilakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning to all of us. Yang kami hormati Bapak Laksana Trihandoko, Chairman of National Research and Innovation Agency Indonesia, BRIN. Yang kami hormati Bapak Profesor Dr. Insinyur Anugrah Widianto BSc MN, Deputy Development Policy, National Research and Innovation Agency Indonesia atau BRIN. Ms. Amanda Skelden, Building Engagement Specialist, the Science-Based Target Initiative or SBTi. Ibu Dr. Widiatmi Sih Winanti MSc, Lead of Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation for Sustainable Research Group BRIN. Bapak Maxensius Trisambodo PhD, Principal Research dari BRIN. Mr. Sebastian Born, Group Procurement and Sustainability Director Dynapec Asia. Bapak Diki Nugraha, Head of Sustainable and Corporate Communication Dynapec Asia. Bapak Agus Sari, Chief Executive Officer Landscape Indonesia. Juga yang kami hormati Ibu Maria Nindita PhD, President Director dari Institute for Sustainable and Agility. Juga Pak Junardi, Presiden dari IGCN. Distinguished guests from industry players, government representatives, and non-business representatives with deep interest in corporate climate ambition. It is a great honor to welcome all of you in this roundtable discussion on achieving corporate climate ambition in Indonesia, co-hosted by UN Global Compact Indonesia Network, IGCN, and the National Research and Innovation Agency, BRIN, and Science-Based Target Initiative, or SBTi. Today's gathering could not be more timely as the impact of climate change become increasingly visible, from rising temperature to extreme weather events. The urgency to act has never been greater. Among the Sustainable Development Goal, climate action, or SDG number 13, is one of the most pressing and interconnected. It underpins our ability to achieve nearly every other goals, from sustainable city and clean energy to food security, and also livelihood and health. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, at UNGC, we believe that businesses are not only part of the problem, but also a powerful part of the solution. The private sector holds the innovation, capital, influence necessary to drive systemic change. And through the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact and our collective action and SDGs, we are working to transform ambition into measurable impact. Here in Indonesia, IGCN has been working closely with companies, government institutions, and partners to advance corporate climate action, helping businesses to understand their emissions, set credible targets, and embed sustainability into their corporate strategy. Over the past years, we have seen growing momentum. More companies are disclosing their emissions, investing in renewable energy, integrating climate risk into their governance framework. Yet, we must acknowledge that the journey is still a long way to go. The number of Indonesian companies with validated science-based targets remains very small compared to other countries. Many organizations are still navigating the complexity of carbon accounting, sectoral pathway, and transitioning financing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why today's dialogue is so important. The science-based target initiatives offer a globally recognized methodology for companies to set emission reductions target in line with the 1.5 degrees Celsius pathway. It translates scientific consensus into practical guidance, helping businesses ensure their climate commitments, that their climate commitments are credible, comparable, and aligned with international standards. But no single actor can achieve this alone. To reach Indonesia's net zero emission target by 2060 or sooner, we must move forward together. Businesses, researchers, government agencies, standard setting bodies, and enable alike. Each has a unique role to play. Business has to lead with ambition and transparency, government and research institutions to create and enable environment through policy, innovation, and knowledge. Standard setting bodies like SBTi to provide the guidance and assurance needed for credible action. And organizations like IGCN serve as the bridge, facilitating dialogue like what we are doing today, partnership, and learning that turn commitment into progress. Through initiatives like today's session, we hope to build a stronger community of practice, one that supports Indonesian companies in taking a science-based and sector-specific approach to reduce emissions, invest in low-carbon solutions, and contribute to a resilient and inclusive economy. Before I close, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to BRIN for hosting this event, to Dynapack Asia for sponsoring this event, and also the SBTi for their partnering in advancing corporate climate ambition globally and here in Indonesia. I also thank all of our distinguished speakers and participants who bring invaluable expertise and perspective in this dialogue. Let us use this opportunity to exchange ideas, share lessons, and most importantly, commit to concrete science-based actions. Because climate action is not a distant goal. It is the foundation of our collective future. Thank you, and I wish a productive and inspiring discussion. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kepada Bapak Andi. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, We will now proceed with our first presentation of the day titled Corporation as the Center of Climate Action. This presentation will provide us with a clear picture of what corporations could do in supporting climate ambition in Indonesia. Please welcome the Manager of Environment and Partnership IGCN, Ms. Medina Amarsa. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Raina, and thank you, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to BRIN, Dynapack, and SBTi for making this happen. And I want to state a very, very urgent condition. Can you please next? Next, please. So I want to say the corporation as the center of the climate action. Why not the government? Why not the NGOs? Why not the communities? Well, this is from the several researches. The industry sector, just the industry sector, contributed to 34% at least total greenhouse gas emissions in Indonesia. And that hasn't included the energy sector, the service sector, and the others. But the corporation is also important because they account to at least 25% of the product domestic brutto or gross domestic product or GDP or economic growth. However, the corporation is being burdened by two burdens. The first is to reduce their emission to comply to 1.5 degrees Celsius as stated in the Paris Agreement goal. How can we reduce the emission to comply to that? But at the same time, the corporation also needs to increase their growth. As mandated by the president, we need to increase our economic growth by 8% by 2029, as stated in RPJMN. And in the long-term goal, we need to achieve the Indonesia net zero emission by 2060. And also we have Indonesia Emas by 2045, which comes first? Are we going to achieve our net zero first or Indonesia Emas first? Are we going to achieve both? I mean, regardless, it's a heavy burden for corporations. So that's why we are here today to talk about it. Next slide, please. I would like to introduce you to the world's largest corporate sustainability initiative. That is the UN Global Compact. We just turned 25 years old this year. So in 2000, Kofi Annan, our former Secretary General of United Nations, has the idea, how can we unite the businesses to address the sustainable development goals? And why corporation businesses have to take the role to lead to implementation for the SDGs. By now, 25 years later, we have more than 20,000 businesses, corporations, signing to the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact. More than 160 countries, we have representatives, and more than 3,800 non-business participants. See, we don't left anything behind. So not only corporations, but we also engage the non-business corporations. Next, please. So how's the idea to implement all the 17 SDGs for the corporation is to make them being a responsible business. So we derive to 10 principles of the United Nations Global Compact that businesses can adhere to in which way that we have to operate responsibly. We have the human rights, business and human rights, business and labor, business and environment, and the anti-corruption that people sometimes overlook, but it is the most important. If we have no corruption today, imagine the world is way brighter. And next, please. And in the Indonesia Global Compact Network, we are proudly present what are our initiatives to tackle the better living environment issues. We have 6 sub-programs: the climate change, biodiversity and nature, water stewardship, circularity, sustainable ocean, and the food system recently. And we have plenty of initiatives starting on our flagship Climate Ambition Accelerator, where companies can measure their GHG and create an emission reduction target. We have the CEO Water Mandate for the CEO guidance and pledge to reduce their water intake and make it more efficient. We have the Think Lab on biodiversity and nature. And we also have the Just Transition Think Lab that has produced some of the knowledge products, such as the Financing a Just Transition Business Brief and Just Transition for Climate Adaptation Business Brief. So the Think Labs are still evolving, keep evolving, and we keep continuously producing knowledge products. In July 2025, we also have launched the Ocean Centers Indonesia, where we can equip the ocean-based companies to advance their sustainable development goals. We also have launched the United Nations Global Seaweed Initiatives, or UNGSI, during the UN General Assembly in New York by this September 2025. So we have plenty of initiatives, and I invite you to join one of these initiatives and learn how we can evolve forward as a corporations. Next, please. As it is not enough, we also have the Forward Faster initiatives, because if you remember, the Sustainable Development Goals will end in 2030, and we only have 5 more years. So corporations have to run, have to sprint, how to forward faster with their Sustainable Development Goals. Next, please. And I would like to introduce you as well to the IGCN Climate Action and Just Transition Working Group. We have Ibu Maria Ernindita Radiati as the chair here. And what are we going to do with this Climate Action Working Group? No, we're not going to convene just meetings or coffees without producing anything. We have plenty to offer. We would like to have the industry studies, surveys, and best practices among us we can share. We would like to also have policy convening and regulation update. One of the non-mandatory regulation or standard is including the SBTi. And we also want to address the sustainable financing needs and mechanism among members, and GHG measurement training, emission reduction strategy, and standard setting as being addressed in the Climate Ambition Accelerator. And don't forget that we are also from the UN. We also want to take the members to international convening or UN conferences, such as the UN Ocean Conference, Conference of Parties if you know COP30. We also want to have the members to UN General Assembly and other UN international conferences. And lastly, I want to emphasize that, sorry, can you go back? I want to emphasize the labor and human rights guidelines, because in UN Global Compact, the business and human rights, business and labor, and also anti-corruption are among our pillars. So how can we transition forward to net zero? How can we transition forward to low carbon development if we don't involve the laborers, if we don't involve the customers, if we don't involve the people? So don't be shy. All the programs are free for UNGC members. If you are keen to work with us, UNGC, with IGCN, with the Climate Action and Just Transition Working Group, please drop an email to me. Next. And you can also visit us always in Centennial Tower. I hope that in this room, during today, we're going to address probably not all, but most of all the issues. We want to hear from you. Have your say. What do you want from the energy transition? How can we help you? How can the UN help you? SBTi help you? The government help you? How can the research institutions help you? So please be active today. We are going to have the roundtable, and we want all your voices matter today. And thank you very much. And I'm going to put to MC. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, pada Mbak May. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure that after hearing her presentation, all of you is very keen to engage more with the UN Global Compact, especially in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now continue with a presentation from the National Research and Innovation Agency BRIN on low carbon technology to support Indonesian business in achieving climate target. Please welcome the lead of Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation for Sustainability Research Group BRIN, Dr. Insinyur Widiatmini C. Winanti. Please give her a round of applause.
Selamat pagi, good morning, all distinguished guests. My name is Widyatmini Sivinanti. I'm working at BRIN since, nggak kelihatan. Good morning. I explain on screen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable, ada Bapak Deputi AP dan Bapak Deputi yang lain. Selamat pagi. My name is Widyatmini Sivinanti. You see that I'm working at BRIN in Research Center of Technology, Environment and Technology, Green Technology, Cleaner Technology. I also would like to mention all of our speakers today, Bapak Andi P. Rahim, Ms. Ananda Skeldon, Ibu Medina, Ibu Elim Susi Hatta, Mr. Sebastian Bone, Mr. Mansensius Trisambodo, Bapak Sylvester Oscar Unggul, dan Ibu Maria. You can mention. Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the committee that already gave me this opportunity to convey a keynote speech and is in this very important meeting. The title is the Roundtable Discussion Achieving Corporate Climate Ambition in Indonesia, Understanding SBTi Fundamentals and Sectoral Pathways. Thank you. And I also would like to mention my friend Ibu Fitri that contacted me and also recommended me to be here. I would like to give a presentation today entitled Low Carbon Technology to Support Indonesia Business in Achieving Climate Targets. I start with the low carbon technology. About low carbon technology for business. Maybe I can begin. Okay, from here. What business can be included here? Before the Ibu Medina, not here. Okay. What businesses can be included in this to use this low carbon technology? Ms. Medina mentioned before that industries, maybe big industries, is contributed more than 34% of the emission in Indonesia. But we know 90% of business industries in Indonesia is SME, small medium enterprise. Yeah, we have also should be mentioned to include them and they should use also the low carbon technology and use their business. There are many small industry here, foods, batik, tofu, tempe, we eat almost every day here. Handicraft, small garment, catering, small restaurant, small shops. Also the services, hotels, hospitals, office buildings, restaurants, school, diligent houses, tourism, and others. Many small-scale industry here in Indonesia, 90% of all industries in Indonesia. Why it matters? It is regulatory, market, and customer pressure toward low carbon footprint now is greater and greater. Also, financial benefits from energy efficiency and reduced operational costs. The risk management and access to green financing opportunities. And how to enhance corporate reputation and competitiveness by using the low carbon technology for businesses. Also, the last is reduce the GHG emission to support net zero emission and Paris Agreement. What are the benefits of using this technology? We can reduce energy, water and material costs, and also operating expenditure. We are cost saving here. By using low carbon technology, we can save the cost. Also improve access to ESG investors and green finance. Also future-proofing against regulatory change and strengthen brand image for the industries and export competitiveness. I think not only large industry can get this benefit. The small industry, medium industry also should get this benefit to their industries. I would like a little bit background of Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement is legally binding international treaty on climate change adopted in 2015 that aims to limit global warming to well below 2% and preferably 100 degrees, 2%, 2 degrees and preferably 1.5 compared to the pre-industrial levels. It works through a 5-year cycle where countries through NDCs action plan to reduce GHG emission and adapt to the climate change impacts. When we see here in the IPCC figures, we see that in 2020, our temperatures, mean temperatures, are already in 1.3 centigrade. It's still long in 2050, but we have already reached 1.3. And this is also the UNEP analysis of climate pledge 2023. This current unconditional NDGs target countries, all countries, point to a global temperature increase of approximately 2.8 centigrades and significantly higher than 1.5 and also well below in 2 degrees, goal to the Paris Agreement. If both unconditional and conditional NDGs is implemented, it's projected to be around increase in 2.5 centigrade. This higher than our target, more higher. And in more study, there is many scenarios that how to countries need much more ambition on NDC targets and use more low carbon technology to achieve the Paris Agreement targets. Businesses have very important role on supporting this target. And we are at BRIN, the R&D of new technology and innovation maybe can be speeded up or carried out. The technology that can reduce more GHG emission to be done and to be carried out to pursue this target because in current study is still far higher than our target. In what's Indonesia climate policy context, we have NDCs already, enhanced national determined contribution, target 21.89% emission reduction, unconditional, and up to 43.2 conditional by 2030. We also have the net zero scenario by 2060 under LTS, long-term strategy for low carbon and climate resilience. And also we have already preparation on carbon trading, carbon tax mechanism under development based on the Article 6 Paris Agreement Indonesia that is already adopted in last COP. And also from President Regulation number 98, 2021, and Ministry of Environment and Forestry on number 22, 2022, that focused on sector energy, including transport, agriculture, forestry, waste, and IPPU, industrial process production use, and product use, industrial process and product use. This is the technology that mentioned in ENDCs. And ENDCs already mentioned so many technology, especially for mitigation technology. There now one on energy sector. There is renewable energy, many solar, hydro, and biofuel, co-firing, biomass, biogas for off-grid power generation. Energy efficiency, this one is done by VAS juga. Also equipment improvement equipment, electric vehicles, efficient street lighting lamp, use of electric stove, also low carbon emitting fuels, clean coal technology is our target to support ENDCs. In agriculture sector, manure and management for biogas, water efficient, concept in water management, organic fertilizer, low emission crops. And in wastewater, LFG recovery and utilization, composting waste and wastewater, waste sector, LFG recovery and utilization, composting 3R, waste to energy, RDF, zero landfill, industrial waste and wastewater treatment sludge, composting, reuse, domestic liquid waste also in Indonesia is still not treatment yet. And last is the industrial process and product use sector, IPPU, in iron steel, ammonia, nitric acid industry, and cement. In iron and steels, improvement of smelter process, and add scrap utilization. In ammonia revamping plant, nitric acid, increase efficiency, reduce natural gas consumption. Also in nitrous oxide destruction. In cement industry, focus on blended cements. In adaptation technology also important. In ENDC mentioned 3 issues on economics, social and livelihood, and ecosystem and landscapes. But I will also only mention 2 technologies that now may be important about food security. There are irrigation, water resources, energy, water, and food nexus. This is important and familiar now, and also technology also for cost resilience. Most of action in NDC and LCCR to 2050 need to support low carbon technology for climate change mitigation and adaptation. Technology is an important support to pursue the target. What is key low carbon technology that can be implemented for businesses? I resume some of the technology here. Maybe we can use on-site renewable energy, solar PV, floating solar, energy efficiency, yes, and digital monitoring system, electrification of process and transport, bioenergy, biogas and biodiesel from wastewater, green hydrogen, hydrothermal, carbon capture, utilization and storage, circular economy and waste-to-energy initiatives, new and more efficient process technology for SME. So, low carbon technology is very important to support to achieve the net zero emission target. Together with financial and capacity building, it's mentioned as means of implementation for climate change mitigation and adaptation. How is the recommendation of the implementation? We can set the measurable interim emission reduction target, for example, for 2030 or 2040, develop internal low carbon investment roadmap, establish monitoring and reporting frameworks, and build partnership with research institutions, ESG investor, and green tech providers. I also resume several initiatives that already done in Indonesia. The big initiatives, Saguling floating solar project is an example of large-scale renewable deployment. And energy efficiency in industry is already done in many industries in Indonesia. Solar rooftop in industry zone. Electric vehicles is already here. Waste-to-energy and ADF project in Surabaya, Solo, and Jakarta. And it is planned by Danantara to implement in 33 cities. Biogas for palm oil mill effluent is already also common, is already many industries implemented, and in other industrial wastewater, including in small industries. There is already biogas plant in tofu industries and also for municipal waste, organic municipal waste. We have a plan already, green fertilizers plant to reduce nitrous oxide emission through a hybrid ammonia production, use green hydrogen to produce green ammonia. Trial by PT Pupuk Kujang in Arun, Aceh province. We have before Arun energy, but now they start to Arun fertilizer, and they try to start production with green ammonia. And what is the barrier and challenge? The most important barrier is high upfront capital cost for implementing the low carbon technology. And in Indonesia, this is the case. Most of all carbon technology are still import. This also why the high upfront capital is implemented is very common here, because we only have very limited own technology. Also limited technical capacity and skilled workforce, because if we implemented the imported technology usually also included the experts. And also it's already installed the energy, the regulatory and the grid access also a challenge. I would like to mention about BRIN's experience in low carbon technologies. So many experience have done by BRINs, biodiesel, renewable energy, bioreactor, production biogas in Pome and other, maybe later, and waste to energy plant, refuse to RDF. We also do the training, audit training of trainer, technical assistant on cleaner production, energy efficiency, and investment grade auditing. So many steel, paper, and many other industries. We also developing the first and second DNA document for mitigation and adaptation climate change, and already submitted to the UNFCCC, containing a study of technology needs to reduce GHG emission and adapt to climate change in energy, industry, transportation, forestry, agriculture, waste, and ocean sectors. This is done with very intensive stakeholder process engagement. Yeah. 1 minute. We don't ask many things, and yeah, we also Article 6.5 agreement. Maybe I can skip it. And what is challenges for R&D institution like BRIN? Based on the IPCC and UNEP reports on the gap in pushing the Paris Agreement target, the most low carbon technologies that used in Indonesia are still imported. There are some challenges need to be considered. How can we mainstream low carbon technology research and innovation to support the implementation of BRIN DC and net zero emission? How can we collaborate with business support and support the business sector in research, innovation, and adoption low carbon technologies, GHG calculation, support submit to carbon market, and I mentioned the third, how to develop new and innovative technologies that can reduce more GHG emission to have, when we have our own, they are reliable and offer technology with low carbon, and affordable low carbon technology our own to reduce low carbon technology, to reduce the low carbon technology import to Indonesia. This also for large, small, and also medium size businesses. I think that all are my presentation. Sorry, little bit longer. Thank you.
Terima kasih kepada Dr. Widiatmini. We kindly ask you to stay on the stage. Mohon perkenan Ibu untuk tetap di atas panggung as we will present a token of appreciation from IGCN. We kindly invite Bapak Andi to come onto the stage to present the token for Dr. Widiatmini. Ibu. Mari kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah, Bapak dan Ibu. Oke, baik. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Dr. Widiatmini dan juga Bapak Andi. Dipersilahkan untuk kembali ke tempat duduknya masing-masing. Please kindly return to your seat. Ladies and gentlemen, to give us a better understanding of science-based target and also their relevance to different sectors, we will now hear the presentation on SBTi fundamentals, science-based target, and sectoral relevance. Please welcome Building Engagement Specialist of SBTi, Ms. Amanda Skelden. Ms. Amanda Skelden, the floor is yours. slide.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for welcoming me here today. Hi, as we're generally known. Today, I will introduce you to SBTi, briefly explain what science-based targets are, how they fit into the wider sustainability ecosystem, and briefly how and why companies set science-based targets. Please. Next, please. And the next. Thank you. The Science-Based Targets Initiative is a climate action organisation enabling businesses to set ambitious emissions targets in line with the latest climate science. The SBTi was founded in 2014 in the run-up to the Paris Agreement by the partners listed here: CDP, our host UN Global Compact, WRI, and WWF, who thought that the private sector needed a way to understand their alignment with these shared global goals. Over the last decade, over 11,000 companies from across the world and from diverse businesses and financial sectors have set targets or commitments with the SBTi. Next slide, please. Today, SBTi develops standards, tools, and guidance that allows companies and financial institutions to set greenhouse gas reduction targets in line with what is needed to avoid the most catastrophic impacts of climate change by limiting warming to 1.5 degrees C and by reaching net zero by 2050 at the latest. Our subsidiary organisation, SBTi Services, assesses and validates companies and financial institutions' targets to ensure that they conform with the SBTi standards criteria. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here in Indonesia, we have seen positive engagement from a range of sectors, with 33 organisations setting targets or with active net zero commitments. Of those, 14 have set near-term targets and 8 have set net zero targets. We also had 3 SMEs engaging, perhaps reflecting the influence of supply chain commitments in the region. We have the greatest engagement with textiles and apparel companies, followed by containers and packaging, and then food, forestry, and paper. During my visit to Jakarta, I'm hoping that I will be able to encourage and support more companies in the region to understand the value of setting science-based targets and to join the movement towards net zero. Next slide, please. Despite the global political narrative and increased polarization on climate change and net zero, our recently published trend tracker shows that there is still considerable growth in setting targets. Between the end of 2023 and the middle of this year, the number of companies setting both near-term and net zero targets increased by 227%. Asia emerged as a key driver of growth, with the number of validated companies in the region increasing 134%. This is partially driven by the rise in the number of companies globally who've set supplier engagement targets with their own SBTs, and this is driving the uptake through the value chain. We also saw at the end of 2024 that listed companies with SBTi validated commitments or targets represented 25% of global revenue, but 41% of global market capitalization. This reflects a strong investor confidence in these companies. So, moving on, what are science-based targets and how do they fit into the wider landscape of reporting, certification, and best practice for companies taking climate action? Next slide, please. And then the next. Fundamentally, science-based targets are an organizational level target to reduce carbon emissions in line with science that will limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. They're not a reporting framework, and currently SBTi does not track progress. We provide the tools and the guidance for a company to understand the pace at which it needs to decarbonize and set ambitious but achievable targets. SBTi and science-based targets have a unique role in the decarbonization of the real economy. We do not exist to duplicate or compete with other frameworks or standards, but rather to provide the science-backed resources and tools for every company to set their own decarbonisation targets. Next slide, please. As a building sector specialist, I just want to explain through how we fit into the wider sector. Next slide, please. Thank you. So taking the building sector as an example, and I'm aware that there are a whole range of sectors here today, but this diagram shows the steps that a developer or a real estate investor or owner or property manager might take on their sustainability journey. And the same journey would apply for almost all sectors. To start with, organisations need to understand where they start. This means measuring their carbon emissions, energy use, and overall environmental performance, and using that data to understand where improvements can be made. And the Greenhouse Gas Protocol is the main global accounting framework for doing this. Once a robust carbon inventory is established, the next step is commitment. And SBTi comes in at this point, providing validated frameworks for defining consistent science-backed targets aligned with 1.5 degrees. The next step, looking at finance, ensuring that finance and investment decisions are aligned with sustainability objectives, can be guided by frameworks such as the OJK Sustainability Finance Taxonomy here in Indonesia, the ICMA Green Bond Principles, as well as GRESB at a building level. And certification is a growing area for green buildings, and it's critical to provide independent confirmation that performance claims and ambitions are being met. Here in Indonesia, we have Green Ship, and globally there are LEED and other certifications. And transparency is also critical. Frameworks such as CDP, TCFD, and ISO 14064 allow consistent, credible disclosure of environmental metrics, including the emissions reductions. And finally, we know that this is a journey. We're all often building the bridge whilst we're driving along it. Therefore, benchmarking and monitoring tools, such as GRESB and CREM for the real estate sector, help companies to track their performance against their peers, identify gaps and refine their strategies. Hopefully, this is a good example of demonstrating where SBTi sits in this wider framework. Next slide, please. So, in reality, what are science-based targets? Our corporate net zero standard lays out the full framework. Net zero targets are made up of 4 elements. The first is a 1.5 degree aligned near-term target. That's a target with a time frame of 5 to 10 years. The second is a long-term target to reduce emissions to a residual level by 2050 or sooner. The third element mentioned here is optional, but we do recommend it. Rapid and deep cuts to value chain emissions have to be a priority for companies. And businesses are encouraged to embark on these as a voluntary additional action. And we call this beyond value chain mitigation. And the fourth and final part of setting a target is that when the company has achieved the long-term target and cut emissions by more than 90% in most cases, it must further commit to neutralising those residual emissions through permanent removals from the atmosphere. Next slide, please. SBTi has a modular structure to our standard system. There are 2 main cross-sector standards, one for corporates and one for financial institutions. We also develop a range of target-setting methods and pathways. These provide the frameworks and support for the target-setting process. And finally, we offer sector-specific standards. These are tailored versions of the SBTi cross-sector standards for specific industries or sector-related emissions. You can see on the right here the sectors where we currently have or are developing sector-specific criteria. Next slide, please. There are a wide range of resources available, including criteria assessment indicators, which show how criteria are assessed in our validation processes, or at the other end, our Getting Started guide for companies who are right at the beginning of their journey. All of our resources are available free and are a useful starting point for any company who's interested in starting this journey. There are further resources available on the SBTi Services website. And we also have a validation portal, and there's manuals, tutorials, and FAQs available. We've also just launched the SBTi Academy. It's an online platform that provides learning modules from foundation to practitioner level and certification for those experts in supporting companies to set targets. Again, this is a great starting point. The beginner foundation modules are free to access It's a good point to understand how and why your company might get started. Next slide, please. So what is the value of setting a science-based target, beyond the knowledge that your company will be part of the solution to the global climate crisis? Next slide, please. The world has changed faster than anyone expected. We're navigating a perfect storm of geopolitical upheaval, regulatory shifts, and mounting climate risk. Last year, we saw our natural disasters happening with an unprecedented frequency, and the Earth's temperature averaged 1.52 degrees C above pre-industrial levels. The impact of climate change could cut global economic output by $23 trillion. That's roughly the size of the US economy. And rising global temperatures will continue to disrupt supply chains, driving losses of up to $25 trillion by 2060 as extreme weather hits agriculture, labor, and logistics. Current government policies in place around the world are projected to result in about a 2.7 degrees C warming above pre-industrial levels, as my previous speaker mentioned. And there remains a substantial gap between what governments have promised to do and the actions they've taken to date. This is the emissions gap that you and the corporate sector can help address. But while we see these climate-related risks growing, we also see a business case and a bottom-line case for action. Climate-leading companies are reaping rewards. According to the Boston Consulting Group, companies taking lead in climate action are seeing 7% revenue gains and averaging £160 million in net benefits annually. Next slide, please. So besides giving companies the confidence that the action they're taking is enough in the eyes of climate scientists, science-based targets can provide business benefits. By committing to the SBTi and setting targets that are validated, companies can achieve internal alignment on strategies and goals, seize opportunities within the low-carbon transition. A science-based target can act as an innovation catalyst, aligning so much with what was being said with BRIN on those new opportunities, and can get the entire organization working together. There are also the traditional business benefits, like reducing costs related to energy and resource efficiency. And SBTs also help companies to stay ahead of the curve on regulation and mitigate transition risks. And finally, science-based targets help companies meet stakeholder expectations, from customers through to investors, all of whom are starting to expect their companies to have these kind of robust targets in place in order to future-proof their business for the low-carbon transition. Next slide, please. Indonesia has really opened its arms to SBTi and welcomed me here today, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you to UNGC, to our sponsors from Dynapack, to BRIN for hosting us today, and everyone else involved in joining today. We see the ambition and the action in the region to tackle climate change head-on, and I hope that this inspires you to start on your journey of setting targets, and you'll take the urgent action to fight the climate crisis and improve the resilience of your business. Terima kasih.
Thank you to Ms. Kelden. Give her a round of applause. We kindly ask you to remain on the stage as we will present a token of appreciation that will be given by the President of IGCN, Bapak Yewe Junardi. Kepada Bapak Junardi, mohon perkenan untuk dapat naik ke atas panggung untuk memberikan token of appreciation. Mari kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah, Bapak dan Ibu. Baik, sekali lagi kami mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Ms. Kelden dan juga Bapak Junardi. Dipersilahkan untuk kembali ke tempat duduknya masing-masing. We kindly ask you to remain on the... Ladies and gentlemen, before we move on to the next agenda, I would like to invite all of the speakers, the panelists, the moderator to come onto the stage to take a picture first. Kepada Bapak dan Ibu, fasilitator, speaker, untuk dapat naik ke atas panggung untuk kita bisa foto bersama. Nanti selanjutnya kita akan bergantian ya untuk foto dengan kepada Bapak Profesor Anugrah, kepada Ibu Dr. Widiatmini, kepada Bapak Junardi, kepada Bapak Andi Rahim, kemudian kepada Ibu Maria Nindita, kepada Bapak Diki Nugraha, kepada Bapak Maxensius Sri Sambodo, dan juga kepada Mbak Mei Amarsa untuk dapat naik ke atas panggung untuk kita foto bersama. Oke, hitungan ketiga, 1, 2, 3. Once again, everyone say cheese. 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi, 1, 2, 3. Oke, baik, terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Sekarang kita bergantian ya dari bawah, dari floor supaya kita bisa foto bersama dengan seluruh partisipan. Bapak dan Ibu, kami mohon perkenannya untuk bisa merapat ke bagian tengah ruangan agar kita bisa foto bersama ya, untuk mengabadikan sesi acara yang sangat berarti ini. Kami mohon perkenannya Bapak dan Ibu untuk bisa merapat berdiri dan juga merapat ke bagian tengah. Untuk fotografer mungkin bisa dibantu juga untuk diarahkan ya. Baik. Ya, mohon perkenannya Bapak dan Ibu, kita quickly untuk foto bersama terlebih dahulu untuk bisa merapat ke bagian tengah ya. Ya. Baik, nanti akan diambil dari angle atas. Oke, baik. Jadi fotografer sudah oke ya? Baik. Hitungan ketiga, 1, 2, 3. Sekali lagi, 1, 2, 3. One last time, 1, 2, 3. All right, thank you so much everyone. We kindly ask everyone to return to your seat as we will proceed to our next agenda of today. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to our next agenda, that is the panel discussion, with the theme of SBTi business case from business sectors and low carbon technology as corporate climate solution. In this session, we'll hear insights from a diverse lineup of experts from global climate frameworks, sustainability-driven businesses, and as well as the National Research Institution. To lead and guide our conversation, please join me in welcoming our moderator, the President Director of Institute for Sustainability and Agility, as well as VP of IGCN VP of Resilient and Inclusive Business, Ibu Maria Ernindita Radiati, PhD. Kepada Ibu Maria, kami persilakan. Mari kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah kepada Ibu Maria.
Good morning everyone. Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu. My name is Maria Nindita. I'm a chairperson for Climate Action and Just Transition Working Group at UN Global Compact, as well as Vice President of Inclusive Business in UN Global Compact. So today we are going to have discussions, because after this panel session, then we will have focus group discussions. So I would like to invite our distinguished panelists, or the MC would like to invite?
You can invite maybe, yes.
Okay. Baik, we would like to invite Bapak Diki Nugraha from Dynapack Asia and Bapak Maxensius Trisambodo PhD from BRIN and Bapak Agusari. Is Bapak Agusari going to be online or offline? Online, yeah, okay. And then Ibu Amanda Skleden from SBTi. Please kindly go to the stage and then we will have discussions, and of course we want to learn a lot from all of these panelists, yeah. Thank you so much for attending this very important event and sharing your experiences and also very valuable knowledge, yeah. So Bapak Ibu, allow me to make an introduction first, yeah. So we understand that understanding SBTi fundamentals and sectoral pathways are very important now. As we all know, the window to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is rapidly closing. To stay within that limit, we need deep science-based emission reductions across every sector. Now, not later. Businesses are the center of this transition. The private sector's ability to decarbonize its operations, supply chain, and investments will define how quickly we can reach our national and global climate goals. That's why it is essential that corporate climate targets are not only ambitious, but also credible, measurable, and aligned with climate science. The Science Based Target Initiative, or SBTi, provides one of the most robust global frameworks for this purpose. It helps companies translate their climate ambition into actionable, verifiable pathways consistent with the Paris Agreement. However, despite growing awareness, the adoption of SBTi in Indonesia remains limited. Many companies are still navigating the complexity of different standards and confused, of course, yeah, and data requirements and sectoral methodologies. At the same time, opportunities are emerging from low carbon technologies and renewable energy solutions to partnership that can accelerate credible climate action. Today's panel brings together leaders from the private sector, government, and research institutions to explore how we can bridge this gap, how businesses can move from intention to implementation, and how frameworks like SBTi can support that journey. Let's begin by hearing from our corporate representatives of the experience and perspective. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have Bapak Diki Nugraha. So Bapak Diki is from Dynapack Asia, Division Head of Sustainability and Corporate Communication. Halo Pak Diki. Ya, selamat pagi. So, please. Thank you so much. Yeah. So Dynapack has taken strong steps towards circular economy and low carbon manufacturing. What are the main challenges you face in translating climate commitment into measurable progress? Please.
Okay, thank you for your questions, Ibu. Yeah, I identified there are two the biggest challenges that we face during the SBTi validations, to be more specific, the way we are aiming to reduce our GHG emissions. The first one is related about Scope 3 data collections, and the last one is about when we define initiative to aim to make the target happen. So I'm going to back to the first one. Okay, we got SBTi validated last year, 2024, but the preparations started in 2022 when we redefined our sustainability journey, and also when we were going to issue the sustainability linked loan. And one of the key performance indicator is reduce greenhouse gas emissions, Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3. In the perspective of Dynapack Asia, Ibu, so we operate in 6 countries in Southeast Asia and also China. The data collections, the GHG Scope 3 data collections, one challenge, and another challenge is our obligation to conduct GHG Scope 1, 2, and 3 data verifications engaged by the third party. So, I mean, can you imagine? We have a challenge to, GHG accounting Scope 1 and 2, but every single year, as, our obligation to SLL, we have to get verification to all the GHG data. That's challenging for us, but when we have identified all the data Scope 1, 2, and 3, I could say that it was easy for us to move the baseline data to the SBTi template and also SBTi guidance, the way we are defining target to aim the emission reductions. And the second one is related about the initiative. As we know, GHG emission doesn't belong to sustainability team only, but belongs to the organization. We have to engage all the boards, CEO, especially CFO, to finance, of course, our initiative. So before we contacted the SBTi team, we conducted several meetings to encourage the boards to agree with our plan. We have to define, all the initiative for an example that this is our baseline and this is our target, and what are the initiatives that we could do to make our target happen. We realized that Dynapack Asia business is kind of something important. So not only what initiative, but also we have to identify the cost and benefit. So when we started to contact the SBTi team, start joining to do the verification, so on and so forth, the data was there since we already get validations, and also we already get the commitment from the boards and also the business process owner that we are going to aim the emission reduction baseline in 2021, and the target is in the 2030. So yeah, the 10-year target. This is the things that we faced during the SBTi data collection.
Thank you so much, Pak Diki, for very clear explanation. I think all of the participants would like to know what motivates Dynapack to be involved in this commitment. Could you please explain? Is it the investors or customers or maybe lender or maybe other stakeholders? Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you for your question, Ibu. The biggest motivation is we are going to aim new opportunity since our customer is well-known brand internationally, and the second one is we are on the the sustainability era, and we are as sustainability team need to be aware, need to implement the ESG outside in. I mean, we have to keep monitoring what the market needs, what our customer wants, what the supplier is supposed to do as well. So based on that kind of considerations, actually we conducted the pastel analysis. I mean, the simple one. That's why one of the findings during the pastel analysis that I think it's quite beneficial for Dynapack Asia to grab new opportunity near future or the long-term business to make the emission reduction to be one of the most important key performance indicator from the perspective of the business.
Okay, so is it actually under, requirement from your current customers, or is it actually emphasizing on expanding your customers into those who have, main concern on the climate issue?
Okay, in 2022, it more into our willingness to expand our business. We want to grab our next opportunity, but currently, I think that since 2024 and 2023, so yeah, all the well-known customer started to ask about our commitment since already there. Yeah, so it's very easy for us to demonstrate our progress.
So do they come from mostly Europe or USA or other countries?
It more into the international company.
Okay.
Not only the brand that coming from Europe and also America, but also some national brands. Since I believe that all of us in Indonesia, we already familiar with the net zero emission target, something like that. So
yeah. So it's not just Europe and USA, they are aware of this, but also from other countries, yeah?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. So I also am sure that participants would like to know how much is the investment? Yeah, and the investment is not just about financial capital, yeah, but also resources, yeah, other resources like human capital, yeah. Do you have a special task force or committee in pursuing or getting the commitment for SBTi? Please, Pak Diki.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ibu, for your question. So, maybe from standpoint of the OPEX, I think since Danapack Asia already had that commitment, we formed the sustainability team, but only on corporate level. So yes, we have 30 plus factories across Southeast Asia and also China, but the number of sustainability team only 4, including myself.
Wow, only 4 people,
correct,
yeah?
Correct.
Dealing with 30 plus factories.
Correct.
Amazing. And then, Pak?
But I believe that maybe some of the participant questionings about the investment, how we are defining the initiative to aim our goals. The good one is we live in 2025 era. There's a lot of financial instruments that are available on the market.
The SLL, yeah, Pak, Sustainability Linked Loan.
Okay, it could be sustainability linked loan, it could be the green bonds, blue bonds, so on and so forth.
Yes.
And also, if you are aiming, for example, using the renewable energy for your operations, that possible for you to use zero capex, PPA, or
Zero
purchase
capex.
agreement.
Wow, please explain, Pak.
Okay, it's kind of the power purchase agreement. So you rent the, for example, solar panel for example, 15 to 20 years. Even we are renting the solar panel, for example, one of our factories, some of the factories in Indonesia, and the price still lower than the provider. So we aim to reduce the emission, and also we get the efficiency. And the second one is, what about another project to conduct the energy efficiency program? To be more specific, there are a lot of grants in Indonesia, including in some countries in Southeast Asia from developed countries. So another responsibility of the sustainability team, not only focus on the operation in our internal set, but we have to keep monitoring and awareing what kind of the financial instrument that available on the your region at the moment. So far, we had 2 grants.
Grants,
last year.
Wow.
And also for conducting the energy efficiency program in 4 of our factories, and it is kind of zero capex, Ibu. And the second one is we have 8 projects in Indonesia to conduct the PPA, power purchase agreement,
8 projects.
installing the solar panels. with again and again zero capex. So again and again, we have to be aware the financial instrument that are available on the market at the moment.
Wow, this is really great news because many people and private sectors are thinking about, well, this is impossible, achieving net zero. Oh, it's so expensive. We are not, that rich, yeah? But this is great news that actually there are many grants available that can be, it's like it is a great opportunities for zero capex.
Yes.
This is amazing. And also, when you mention about SLL, this is also with lower interest rate,
Correct.
right? Yeah.
No more than 5%.
Yeah, see, no more than 5%. Can you please enlighten the participants? Who are your lenders that give you the SLL? Because they are national and international, right? Maybe you can share some of your experiences.
So we issued the SLL from BNI in Singapore, Bank Negara Indonesia, but for the Singapore region, since our headquarters is in Singapore. I believe that not only this bank, but also, for example, that last month, some of the international bank keep asking us to provide another similar loan, like, you already focus on the GAG, what about the supply, so on and so forth, because I believe that not only the needs of the dana package, but also the needs of the banks, the lenders, the financial issuer to also support the organization or the company like us to implement our sustainability target. To be more specifically, is GHG emission.
This is also amazing because the companies do not have to seek the funding, but they come to you as long as you have the commitment and also setting.
Super tax deduction, right? And government commit to give a very good incentive for the business that's doing research, especially if we talk about the business always think about profit. Maybe people and planet, but profit first, this is the reality, right? But you can get more profit if maybe you can get a lot of tax deduction, right? And one of to get there is you need to do research in collaboration with BRIN, for example. And according to the data, a lot of companies submitting proposal, 224 proposal for research and to get super tax deduction, right? But the success rate is very low, just less than 9% from the all proposals. And then about 30 taxpayers companies submitted a proposal, but only less than 30%. 9 companies get the incentive, right? So what we can observe from this is the intention is there, but maybe the way to deliver the research need to be improved. How we can bring the research is quite fit with the standard of Ministry of Finance to get the super tax deductions. Of course, there's a lot of issue regarding the bureaucracy, administrative, the procedure and complexity. Let's work together, let's sit together to solve these ones. Because this is good not only for the company, but also for knowledge development from the BRIN side. So how we can capitalize, how we can optimize resource and capability of the researchers to get kind of the, to grab the incentive on the tables. There's still a lot there. So I think that's in my opinion, the strategic positions of BRINs in enhancing collaboration with the industry. Yeah, and of course, to do that, I think BRIN also need to improve the way in showing the expert we have, the thematic that we already have, how to find the researchers, how the expert, how to connect all the things is also need to be promoted, so business also can have better relations with the scientists. I think that's my idea.
Wow, this is really also another great news, yeah, that there are super tax deductions, yeah. And I just try to Google it. Yeah. maybe you can maybe verify or maybe give ideas on what regulations that companies must read, learn, and then implement, so that they can get super tax deduction in the area R&D. I do have my list here, but I just want to ask you, Pak, because you're the expert, yeah. Please, Pak, yeah, can you please mention some of the regulations?
Yeah, actually, it is under the Ministry of Finance. Yeah?
Yes.
The regulation is under the Ministry of Finance. They also already have the sectors that will get the super tax deductions. Yeah? And the challenge is how to direct the research and the business interest to the priority sectors that are already set by the ministers.
Okay.
So I think that's the thing that we need to work together with the business. Right?
Okay, so maybe Pak, if I please allow me, ya, Bapak Ibu, to mention some of the regulations, ya, that stated about super tax deduction, ya. Government Regulation number 45 of 2019, Peraturan Pemerintah nomor 45, and Minister of Finance Regulation number 153, ya Pak, 2020. And then most recent update is Peraturan Menteri Keuangan or Minister of Finance, ya, Regulation number 81, 2024. Now maybe Bapak Ibu you can Google that, ya. And then this is excellent that BRIN can provide you with mentorship and education and also technologies and research, ya Pak. So you never walk alone, ya Bapak Ibu, ya, when you do this kind of action and commitment, ya. So Bapak, maybe I would like to continue first because the organizer remind me of the time. So please allow me to invite Bapak Agus Sari. I think Pak Agus Sari is online, ya. Pak Agus, are you there, Pak Agus?
Yes, I'm here. Selamat pagi, Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu, Bu Nita. How are you?
Pagi, Pak Agus. Baik, Pak Agus. I hope you are in good health because you are very busy, ya Pak, traveling all the time, ya Pak.
Unfortunately, yes, but I'm good. I'm well. Thank you very much.
Please, Pak Agus, please kindly introduce yourself so that the audience know you better. Please, Pak.
Yeah, hi. I'm Agus Sari. I'm with a group of advisory companies called the Landscape Group. I'm also chairing the standing committee of the Indonesian Chambers of Commerce on environmental development. And that's where ESG and standards and everything with Bu Nita are basically advanced for the industry. So I've also been on the board of a number of climate-related think tanks and associations, advising the government of Indonesia since COP1, which was 30 years ago already. I myself have I was a co-chair of a contact group at COP, one of the COPs, basically on RED Plus financing. I'm very, very happy and honored to be here, Bunita.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pak Agus. By the way, my nickname is Nita. So for those who are confused, who is Bunita? So it's actually me. Yeah. Okay, Pak Agus, really amazing, extensive experience and professional works that you have done. So we all know that land use, forestry, and agriculture sectors are fatal for Indonesia's emission reduction pathway. So what policy directions or enabling mechanisms are being considered to encourage corporate participation in setting and achieving science-based climate targets within these sectors? Please kindly enlighten us, Pak Agus.
Yes, thank you very much, Punita. I think first and foremost, one noted fact is that one of our land-based companies, Sinarmas APP, I believe, has gone through SBTi process and gotten quite successful in it. So SBTi is possible to be applied to land-based sector, and the methodology to do so under SBTi has already been developed. So it is actually robust and very good. But let me go back a little bit on that. Yeah, I agree that SBTi is, of course, first and foremost scientific, so that it is it follows the scientific methodology in order to define what net zero means to everybody, basically as a result, it makes net zero target comparable between one company to another, especially among those in the same sector with the same definition and everything, and with certain methodology that is scientific. It also avoids greenwashing. So that is also another good thing about SBTi, right? But let me tell you a little bit about how we could make SBTi better. Yeah. First is that I think a lot of companies, even those who have already done this, I don't know, probably it varies between one company with another, but at least the ones that I've talked to basically admits that it is not easy. It's not that easy, at least. Yeah, it's still complex, and at times it is expensive. And it appears that only big boys can do that. You know, Sinarmas is humongous, but what about mid-sized companies? What about smallholders? And if you're talking about land-based sector, we're basically talking about, for example, in the palm oil sector, 40% of the land is actually developed and managed by smallholders. How are we going to achieve SBTi with that? With 40% smallholders in the space, that could probably be achieved through scope 3 of SBTi, but scope 3 is, of course, the most complex one, and obviously the most difficult and expensive. And that only applies to smallholders that are in the supply chain of the big boys again. What about the independent smallholders? That needs to be, I think, addressed. More than happy to discuss with people on how to address it. Some sectoral methodologies remain to be developed. I think the land-based one, I think it's quite advanced, but there are some other sectors that need to be addressed. I also noticed the dichotomy between SBTi and carbon market, and in the land-based sector, that is quite important, because quite a lot of these companies, I think, are seeing the opportunities to do insetting, which is basically offsetting, but internally. They develop, nature-based solutions within their own land banks, and they would like to find that actually acceptable through SBTi. And to be completely fair, I think I think there is no need to dichotomize between SBTi and the carbon market, and probably it is unintended. Yeah, because people have been talking about SBTi not being allowed to use carbon offset, and I think for the reason of possible greenwashing, which I think is a fair observation. My suggestion would be to address the greenwashing part without having to throw the baby with the bath water, which basically means that offset should be allowed, inset should be allowed, greenwashing should be addressed, integrity of the carbon credits from insetting and offsetting through nature-based solutions should be addressed and should be addressed seriously, which is now being done. I think this should be akin to basically the Paris Agreement itself. There is NDC commitments by governments to reduce emissions, but there's also Article 6 carbon market that is allowed to actually assist governments to make it easier for them to achieve their NDCs. I think similar idea could be done with SBTi. If we could probably even separate, SBTi as a commitment and the use of offset and inset as a way to achieve the SBTi, that probably could work, and we could address the two separately. Yeah, but that basically to sum up, we may not need to dichotomize between the two, between
Okay.
SBTi and
Thank you
government.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah, and just one more thing, Bu Nita, just
Yeah.
before I wrap up,
Yeah.
is the link between private and public targets. Between SBTi and NDC, between private net zero targets and Indonesia's net zero target. I think how we can address it would be good. Thank you very much, Punita.
Thank you so much, Pak Agus. Yeah, very clear explanation that SBTi will able to avoid greenwashing, and then it will become like the same indicators for different sectors, using SBTi, and also there are many ways of achieving the target SBTi. So Pak Agus, please don't go anywhere yet, because we would like to also now listen from Ibu Amanda Skelden. Maybe you can respond to Pak Agus' explanation, and also just another one is, what are the key steps for business to begin their SBTi journey? Please, Ibu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ibu Maria. And that's really useful and insightful from Bapu Agus. In response, I think it's useful to understand particularly that SBTi has evolved over the last 10 years hugely. We started with the target of wanting to get 100 companies committed to this, and as I say, there's now over 11,000. And we are constantly evolving our standards and our sector guidance, both to ensure that they remain grounded in science, but also to ensure that they are actionable and they are actually driving action on the ground rather than just setting ambition. So, firstly, I recognize the complexity. I've been at SBTi for 6 months, and I still have so much complexity in our systems. We are always looking to improve that and create the resources that help to do that, and we have a new online portal, which should also help at some point. But also, particularly within Asia and within markets such as Indonesia and other areas, we are aware of those differences, and that is why we are consulting on a whole range of our standards at the moment. And I think that's the one key thing that I would feed back, particularly on that comment, is we are actively seeking input and voices that are more diverse and reflect the global market that we're seeing now, rather than just our traditional big boys, and particularly those sort of Western European, North American ones. So there are two key areas that we're looking at. One at the moment is our overarching corporate net zero standard, and that's out for consultation. And within that,
There are a couple of key issues that I think are relevant and we would really value feedback. I have to push this because there's a new public consultation will be coming out in a few weeks, and there'll be an online survey, and anyone here and everyone here is welcome to feed in. But there are a few key aspects of that. One is around the expectations on companies, whereas previously standards were set purely by the size of your organization. We're now recognizing that different geographies may not be able to progress at the same time. So there are different categorizations. We're also looking at the ability to use permanent removals as a way of accounting for not achieving short-term targets when that's the point that we're getting to. It's not removing the end goal of still achieving net zero, but it is enabling progress along those pathways. And the third thing I just want to mention on that as well is the flag criteria. There's also a consultation out around flag, and I had many conversations yesterday, both with companies and around palm oil here, around the challenges for the industry in Indonesia. And there are new aspects of our criteria that are very specific to that. And again, there's a consultation open around some of those commitments. And a lot of that should also help engage some of those smaller landowners. And I think that's one of the things that we know is critical. And we want to engage those. But it's also that process of going, we know this is easier for the bigger companies, but engagement through supply chain is how you can really drive that action on the ground, and supporting and engaging your supply chain is critical to that.
Okay. Thank you so much. This is really amazing that now you are going to listen more to the private sectors, yeah? And then also expanding your criteria, including smaller landowners, yeah? And also you are recognizing the difference between different geographics, yeah, and then not just removal but also achieving the net zero, yeah. So Bapak Ibu, I'm been reminded by the organizer that I need to open question and answer. So yeah, please allow me. Very sorry, I need to invite participants to have question and answer, to have questions, yeah. Please raise your hand and please mention your name, company, and your question. Because we don't have much time, kindly address directly, explain directly your question. Silakan Bapak Ibu, siapa yang mau tanya? Oke, silakan satu Ibu. I think we need to invite 3 questions and then ask the panelists to answer the questions, ya. Please satu lagi mungkin Bapak Ibu, cuma satu yang nanya, 2. Satu lagi di mana? Oh di sana. Oh ya 3 ya. Oke, baik silakan Ibu. Tolong panitia ya. Silakan berdiri Ibu ya.
Ya, oke. Thank you. Good morning, my name is Ayu Erliza, I'm from BRIN. I have one question. So this focus group, this tema relate to net zero emission, right? And I know ISO IWA 42, ISO 14068 part 1.
ISO,
ISO, yeah, this is the ISO for carbon neutrality and net zero. And what is the interlinkage for SBTi with this ISO? Maybe this
Okay,
question.
thank you. Do you have any specific panelists to address this question?
Maybe to Miss Amanda.
Okay, Ibu Amanda. Okay, thank you Ibu Ayu. And then second, Ibu with the red hijab here, panitia. Di depan ini meja nomor 7. Nomor 7 ya, silakan. Ibu, please berdiri Ibu.
Okay, thank you Ibu Nita. I'm Maria from Samudra Indonesia, a shipping and logistic company. So I would like to raise a question to Miss Amanda. So the SBTi has begun developing sector-specific pathways for shipping. Is that correct? Yeah. In that case, what are some specific realistic emission reduction levers for shipping companies such as fuel transition, road optimization or digital fleet management? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ibu Maria ya. Oh,
Yeah.
we have same name. Okay, and then Bapak, please ya. Panitia tolong yang dia udah. Ya, silakan Bapak.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Hello everyone, my name is Daud Zakaria and I am from ASEAN Pulp and Paper from Power Plant Division. And maybe we all know about from America already withdraw from the Paris Agreement. So maybe they very confident about CCS and the CCUS. And you know, in Indonesia, our government in Indonesia already targeted maybe around 15 target project at 2023, 2030, before 2033, 15 project must to be finished for CCS and also for CCUS. So I'm just curious about this case. Maybe my question is for the landscape Indonesian. The given potential of the CCS and also for CCUS project in Indonesia, maybe can also attract investment from the fossil fuel industry. So how your institution ensure that this project are not only business oriented, but also meet the standard of sustainability and do not sacrifice the integrity of ecosystem and the location storage. And also I want to know, my question is to maybe for SBTi, maybe is the company's target validated as the net zero if they are very depends on CCS or CCUS technology that is still debatable and has not been widely tested. And given the potential of the CCUS to delay the transition to renewable energy, are there special criteria in the SBTi to SBTi methodology to assess the credibility of the commitment supported for this technology? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you Pak Zakaria. Okay, baik. Now I think I would like to go directly to the panelists. Maybe I think Bu Amanda, you are very popular. Everybody wants to be enlightened by you. So first question from Ayu about the interlink between the SBTi and the ISO of the climate change. Silakan Ibu.
Yeah, thank you. And that was a question I was discussing just yesterday as well. I think there's two parts in response to this. One is that SBTi's framework is based on the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, which is currently just gone into partnership with the ISO standard. So there is going to be more interlink and alignment between that ISO and the GHG protocol, which will directly flow into the accounting processes that form the basis of the SBTi standards. I think the other point around that is just acknowledging that interoperability is critical, and we know that. And I work with colleagues who particularly work very closely with other standard setters to ensure that as we move forward, we know it's a crowded marketplace. We know that people are having to capture data and fill in forms in 20 different places and report to all of these different things. There is a real commitment, I think, across the standard sector to try and align more in that space. So hopefully you will see as we move forward the greater sort of alignment and a kind of convergence of some of these standards, hopefully, rather than increasing complexity.
Okay, so it is in line, yeah? So don't worry about it. So maybe they can start by following the ISO first, in preparation, ya Pak ya, to have commitment with SBTi. And then the second question from Ibu Maria, it's about, is there any particular, standard or requirements for shipping industry?
At the moment, that's in our consultation process, and all of those sector criteria are online. It's a particularly challenging sector, and we're aware of that. And generally, that's where we would love to hear input against those. So I wouldn't be able to, at this point, to kind of recognize or identify specific commitments on it, but please do have a look and put those thoughts and comments around how that works in, because we're aware that a lot of those sectors that I shared earlier are very critical and they have their own unique challenges. So Yeah.
So yeah, they need to contact SBTi and then have a discussion. And also the last question for you, Amanda, is about is using the technology of CCS or CCUS validated by SBTi?
At the moment, the use of carbon capture and storage is not considered to be aligned with setting science-based targets on the near term. And long term, we would still aim to get to at least 90% across most business sectors before any permanent removals were enabled for the last 10%. That varies very slightly in certain sectors that we're looking at. And again, it looks at those specific sectors. So we're particularly aware around cement that there is adaptations in there. So we are looking more at how we can acknowledge that need and that technology whilst retaining credibility and as Argus said, avoiding that greenwashing challenge. We know that needs to be challenged. What I would say again is please share your thoughts on that, and when the new consultation comes out on the corporate net zero standard, we really need to hear voices from people who have a different perspective. So please do, because we are looking at it, but not at the moment.
That's great, yeah. So you are actually focusing on abatement, yeah? More on abatement, yeah? Thank you so much, because we don't have much time now. Please, Pak Agus, are you still there, Pak Agus?
Still here, Bu.
Yes, Pak. So there's one question for you. Please kindly explain, respond to it in short, in brief, because they want to know, Pak Zakaria would like to know whether using the CCUS or landscape, CCUS can address this 15 targets project of Indonesia. Please, Pak Agus.
Yes. I think Indonesia does support CCS and CCUS, and understanding the potential in Indonesia to house CCS and CCUS projects. That's I think that needs to be recognized. However, I share the concerns that Bu Amanda SBTi has on CCS, CCUS. I think there are so many things that needs to be observed first before we can take CCS, CCUS. Technically, there is a scientific background. Of course, there's a scientific reason for accepting CCS, CCUS. But we are not only talking about the technology, we're not talking about the geology of CCS, CCUS. There are so many other things that we need to pay attention to. Even in Indonesia, the potential is the technical potential, the geological potential, not necessarily the economic and the financial potential yet, because CCS, CCUS is still considered as a high cost option, very, very high cost option actually, compared with nature-based solution, for example. So that needs to be taken into account. That said, there have been some ideas floated around, and Bu Amanda, you may wish to hear about this, that they may actually need, there may be some possibility of just allowing fossil fuel-based companies and fossil fuel-based sectors to do CCS, CCUS, but only in a limited manner within their sector rather than going across sector, which means that, the CCS, CCUS and however that is going to be implemented may not disrupt, the rest of the carbon markets, the rest of the mitigation policies in other sectors other than the fossil fuel sectors. That may limit the I would say impacts of CCS, CCUS in many of our mitigation actions. I would like to address a little bit, if I may, Bu Nita, on the standards, ISO and others.
Oh yes, please, Pak. Just 1 minute, yeah, Pak, please.
Yeah, just a little bit, that it actually shows, there are probably about a dozen standards that companies are currently, complying on a daily basis, and there is probably a division only to write reports on those 11 or 12 standards. My suggestion, if I may, is to support what SBTi is now doing with ISO, but not only with ISO. I think we need to converge all standards. We have TNFD, TCFD, IFRD, and all those alphabet soups, and come up with one comprehensive one that would allow us to follow simply. I think that would probably be
I think
something.
that would be all of our expectations, ya Pak Agus.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bu.
Pak Agus, thank you so much for your clear explanation. Because of the organizer is already reminding me 0 time for us. So please give big applause to the panelists, and we would like to thank you all very much for very inspiring sharing, and we hope that we can have more discussions in the near future. And then we're going to have a roundtable discussions like FGDs after this. Yeah. So I would like to give it back to the MC. Thank you.
Thank you for all of our panelists and moderator for the very insightful discussion and a thought-provoking perspective. We kindly ask everyone to gather just in front and below the stage as we will present the token of appreciation for all the panelists and also moderator. We kindly invite to the front Bapak Andi Rahim, the Secretary General of IGCN, to present the token of appreciation for our panelists and moderator. Mari kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah Bapak dan Ibu untuk para panelis dan juga moderator hari ini. Ya, baik, Bapak dan Ibu, kita bisa foto secara keseluruhan terlebih dahulu, para panelis dan juga moderator. Sekali lagi Bapak dan Ibu, mari kita berikan tepuk tangan yang meriah kepada sesi panel discussion yang telah selesai. Okay, thank you for all of our panelists and moderator. You may return to your seat as we will proceed to our next agenda, the focus group discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard many insightful perspectives during the panel discussion, and now to build on these insights and encourage more interactive exchanges, we will continue with our focus group discussion, Climate Target in Indonesia Industry Sector. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Medina Amarsa, who will explain how this session will be conducted. Please give her a round of applause.
Baik, selamat siang. Semoga belum capek ya Bapak Ibu, dan terima kasih sudah ngomong bahasa Inggris selama separuh sesi. Sekarang kita ingin yang santai-santai aja, kita ingin berbahasa Indonesia, kita ingin tahu sebenarnya rekan-rekan ini apa saja aspirasinya dalam menetapkan target net zero atau dalam menetapkan strategi dekarbonisasi. Nah, saya ingin memberikan arahan sesi, mohon next. Nah, Bapak Ibu sudah duduk di table masing-masing, jadi pastikan pas registrasi tabelnya benar. Karena apa? Karena tabel ini di-assign per sektor. Nah, untuk grup 1 atau grup A, ini ada di tabel kanan saya, tabel 5, 6, dan 15, ini tabelnya orang-orang konsultan, orang-orang finance, dan sebagainya ya, academician, researcher, ini di sebelah kanan. Kemudian ada di tabel 3, 7, 14, ini grup B. Grup B ini kalau nggak salah tentang building, property, waste management, hospitality, ini ada di grup B. Nah, kemudian grup C ini tabel 1, 8, dan 13. Ini kalau nggak salah grupnya manufaktur ya, packaging, kemudian chemical, fertilizer ada di grup C. Kemudian di grup D ini ada tabel 2, 9, dan 12. Ini grupnya energi dan mining, pertambangan. Dan yang paling kiri saya atau kanannya rekan-rekan ada grup E, grup 4, 10, dan 11. Ini grupnya